Welcome to the channel. In this video, I will discuss India and China relation and the recent conflict between the two nations. This will be a comprehensive coverage, so I request all of you to watch the full video to understand the situation better. All the informations are taken from authentic sources, and my target in this video is focused only on the educational purposes. So let's begin. The PRC, or the People's Republic of China, was established in the 1st October 1949, and let's see a brief history about it. Now, the dynastic rule ended in 1912 with a Xinhai revolution, when the Republic of China, or ROC, replaced the Qing dynasty, and the subsequent Chinese Civil War resulted in a division of the territory in 1949, when the Communist Party of China, or CPC, led by Mao Zedong, established the People's Republic of China, or the modern China that we know today. India was the first non-communist country in Asia to establish the embassy in PRC. And on April the 1st, 1950, this date is very important because on this date India and China established the diplomatic relations. The two countries also jointly expounded the Panchashil, or the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, in 1954. The Panchashil is a Sanskrit word. The Panch means 5 and Shil means virtues. And subsequently the relations between present China and India have been characterized by the border disputes resulting in 3 military conflicts. First is the Sino-Indian War of 1962, and then is the Chola incident of 1967 and the 1987 Sino-Indian skirmish. However, since the late 1980s, both the countries have successfully rebuilt the diplomatic and the economic ties. Gradually, China became India's largest trading partner, and the two countries have also extended strategic and military relations. Despite the growing trade and economic relations, the diplomatic talks, the border dispute between the two nuclear power countries never seemed to coming to a final settlement. That is why in the early 2017, the two countries clashed in the Doklam Plateau, which is situated in the India, China and Bhutan border, or the Sino-Bhutanese border. And in the most recent time, both the countries are heavily moving their armed forces near the border of Ladakh, thus keeping the bilateral relations to deteriorate further. So let's see the timeline of relations between the two nations, starting from the ancient times. Now, Buddhism was transmitted from India to China in the 1st century CE, or the current era. The economic contact between the two regions developed through the trade relations developed through the Silk Road, or the Silk Route. Now, Chinese scholars and monks traveled to India. The famous examples were Xuanzang, or popularly known as Huan Sang. During the reign of Harshavardhan in India, at the time of 627 to 643 AD, and also some Indian scholars and monks also traveled to China. Some of the famous examples are Buddha Bhadra, and Bodhi Dharma. Both of these Indian scholars were highly regarded in China. And next, the Chola dynasty of South India had a strong trading links with the Chinese Song dynasty. Even the Chola Navy conquered the parts of Indonesia and Malaysia to secure some trading route to China. Now later, Admiral Zheng He, who is a naval commander during the Ming dynasty of China, visited many Indian kingdoms and ports, which included parts of Bengal and also some parts of South India, where he liberally dispensed many Chinese gifts, which include silk, porcelain utensils, and some other goods. Then again 12 diplomatic missions were sent from Bengal to Nanjing in between 1405 and 1439. Now let's see the relation during the British and with the independent India. Now the British developed opium trade as an export product from India to China. The British also deployed Indian soldiers to serve their interest in the areas like Shanghai. Now independent India first established the diplomatic relations with the PRC on 1st April 1950, becoming the first non-communist and socialist nation on Asia to do so. And the catchphrase of Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai becomes famous. Subsequently, Tibet became a point of contention between India and China. Here you can see the Tibet Autonomous Region in the modern map of Tibet, and strategically placed beyond the Himalayan region. The Tibet area served as a buffer zone. And where India believed it had inherited the special privileges from British Raj, whereas Chinese Communist Party viewed Tibet as an integral part of PRC. So, however, the PRC reasserted control over the Tibet, and it tries to end the Lamaism. Lamaism is nothing but the Tibetan Buddhism, and feudalism by force of arms in the 1950. Government of India informed the Chinese leaders that India had no political ambitions or territorial ambitions and did not seek any special privileges in the Tibet, but that tradition of trading rights must continue. Now in May 1951, Tibet accepted the PRC sovereignty, but the existing political and the social system of Tibet continued, and in April 1954, India and PRC signed an 8-year agreement on Tibet that became the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, or the Panchashil Treaty: non-interference in others' internal affairs and respect for each other's territorial unity, integrity and sovereignty. And what are the 5 principles? So what are the 5 principles? Number 1, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity. Number 2, mutual non-aggression. Number 3 is mutual non-interference. Mutual non-interference in the each other's internal matters. Number 4 is equality and the mutual benefit. And at last, number 5, peaceful coexistence. So these are the 5 principles of Panchashil Treaty. Then in 1954, India published a new maps that included the Aksai Chin area. After objecting the Chinese road building work in the area, and it invoked frequent clashes erupted. So in 1959, the PRC Premier Zhou Enlai informed Nehru, the Indian Prime Minister, that China did not accept the legal basis of the McMahon Line. The McMahon Line is a line which the British, Tibet and the Chinese delegations together in the 1914 Shimla Convention had drew, and this is there in the region of modern Arunachal Pradesh and the China border here, and it defines the eastern section of the border between India and Tibet, which is presently in Arunachal Pradesh. Then in March 1959, Dalai Lama, the spiritual and the temporal head of Tibet, sought sanctuary in Dharmashala, where he established the Tibetan government in exile. Now, why the Dalai Lama came into news is, the Dalai Lama is basically a title given by the Tibetan people to the foremost spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism. In 1951, the present Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government were pressurized into accepting an agreement by the PRC, by which it became formally incorporated into the People's Republic of China. Now in 1959, Tibetan uprising or Tibetan rebellion erupted in Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. Deadly armed conflict between the Tibetan guerrillas and the People Liberation Army PLA started, and fearing for his life in the wake of the revolt, Dalai Lama fled to India, and where he formed the government in exile, the Tibetan government in exile. Then in 1955, both the countries attended the Asian African Conference in the Bandung, Indonesia. where they jointly advocated the Bandung spirit of solidarity, friendship, and cooperation. And then in 1962, the famous Sino Indian War over the disputed areas of Ladakh and the Tawang took place. Now, this 1962 war is because of a Chinese disputed Himalayan border, which led to the war between China and India in 1962. China abandoned all the attempts of peaceful resolution on the 20th October 1962, invading the disputed areas along the Himalayan border of Ladakh, which is this area, Aksai Chin, here, and capturing Rezang La in Chushul, in the Western Theatre. This is known to be the Western Theatre, that is the Ladakh region, as well as the Tawang in the Eastern Theatre, now Arunachal Pradesh. Finally, China declared a ceasefire in 20th November 1962 and withdrew the forces to its claimed line of actual control, or LAC. Now, the border conflict of 1962 set a serious setback in the bilateral relations. Now, in the late 1967, there were two more conflicts between India and Chinese forces at the contested border in Sikkim. One is the Nathula incident and the other is the Chola incident. Both happened in the Sikkim. Now, Sikkim was an independent state under the Chogyal. The Chogyal is a monarch of the former kingdoms of Sikkim, and Sikkim was a protectorate state. Protectorate of India. Sikkim was protectorate of India. That means India was in full authority to protect Sikkim from any external aggression. Now, the main competition to control the disputed borderland in the Chumbi Valley is the major cause for the tensions. Then in 1978, Indian Minister of External Affairs Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee made a landmark visit to Beijing. Both the countries officially re-established the diplomatic relations and the bilateral ties improved gradually in 1979. Then in 1984, frequent border clashes occurred in the northeast frontier or northeast border of Arunachal Pradesh. Now, Arunachal Pradesh became a full-fledged state of India in the 1987. Now, it was an union territory before, and it was called as Northeast Frontier Agency, or NEFA. However, later Prime Minister Shri Rajiv Gandhi visited China in December 1988, initiating the process of normalization of bilateral relations. There they are agreed to establish a joint working group and a joint economic group for further ties between the two nations. And then in 1992, Indian President R. Venkat Rakaman became the first president to visit China since independence. Then Prime Minister Shri Narasimha Rao visited China in September 1993. There was an agreement on the maintenance of peace and tranquility along the LAC in the India-China border area was signed. Then in 1996, Chinese President Jiang Zemin visited India, and there was an agreement signed which is called the Confidence Building Measures, or CBM. Now, in the year of 1998, nuclear tests were held in Pokhran, Rajasthan, India. The relations faced a minor setback during that time. External Affairs Minister Sri Jaswant Singh visited in China during June 1999. And both sides reiterated that neither country is a threat to each other. Then during the 1999 Kargil War, China voiced support for Pakistan, but also counseled Pakistan to withdraw its forces. President K.R. Narayan's visit to China in May 2000 on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of establishment of the diplomatic ties between China and India marked a return to high-level exchanges. Then in 2004, two countries proposed opening up of the Nathula Pass and the Jelepla passes in Sikkim. The Sino-Indian bilateral trade surpassed the $10 billion mark for the first time. Then in 2008, a shared vision for the 21st century of the Republic of India and the People's Republic of China was adopted. In April 1st, 2010, it marks the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between both the countries. Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao visited India during 15 to 17 December 2010. He was accompanied with 400 different business delegates who signed various business deals with Indian companies. Then in 2011, it marked the China-India exchange year. Then a memorandum of joint compilation for the Encyclopedia of India-China Cultural Contacts were signed. Now in 2012, the BRICS summit, which is held in New Delhi, Chinese President Hu Jintao emphasized the building of peaceful, prosperous and more dynamic China-India relationship. Then in 2015, two sides met on the sidelines of 7th BRICS summit held in Ufa, Russia. China decided to open the Nathula Pass in Sikkim to Indian pilgrims, and India celebrated the India Tourism Year in China. Now, India along with Pakistan joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, as a full member on the 9th of June 2017 at a summit in Astana, Kazakhstan. Then on 16th of June 2017, Chinese troops with construction vehicles and road building equipments began extending an existing road southward in the Doklam. Doklam is a territory which is claimed by both the China as well as Bhutan. After repeated talks in 28th of August 2017, both India and China reached a consensus to put an end to this border standoff, and both of them agreed to disengage and from the standoff in Doklam. Then in 2018, Chinese President Xi Jinping held an informal meeting with the Indian Prime Minister Modi in Wuhan, which set up a new model of exchanges between them. Then in 2018, Indian Prime Minister Modi visited China again to attend an SCO summit in Qingdao. The two leaders met again on the sidelines of 10th BRICS summit and the G20 summit in Buenos Aires. Then in 2019, India reiterated that it would not join the China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, stating that it cannot accept a project of CPEC, or the China Pakistan Economic Corridor, under the BRI, which ignores the territorial integrity of India. Now, the second informal meeting was held in Mamallapuram, Chennai in the October 2019, which reaffirmed the Wuhan Consensus. It began with a new era of cooperation between both the nations. The first India-China informal summit invoked the Wuhan spirit, whereas the second informal India-China summit has called for the Chennai Connect. Well, on April 1st, 2020, it marked the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between both the nations, and 70 events were held in celebration, and various other activities are also planned. And on 1st May 2020, the China-India troops clashed between each other in Naku La sector in Sikkim, leaving 11 soldiers injured. Following these clashes, the tension between the two countries grew in the Ladakh region, with the build-up of troops in the multiple locations. In one clash near the glacial lake of Pangong Tso, Indian troops were badly injured and had to be evacuated by helicopter. In another clash, 20 Indian and unknown number of PLA soldiers were reportedly killed in action, or KIA, on the night of 15 or 16 June in Galwan Valley, eastern Ladakh. Now, the standoff in the Galwan area was one of the biggest flashpoints since the 1962 war. China till date opposes the Indian constitutional developments in the area. India, however, in 2019, they abrogated the Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, thereby ending a special status for the state of Jammu and Kashmir and bifurcated it with the two union territories of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. China was one of the handful of the countries that condemned this move. China even tried to raise the issue in the international forum, which includes the UNSC. Now, the External Minister of India, Sri S. Jaishankar, hold a joint virtual conference with Russia and Chinese counterparts on June 22nd to 2020, whereas Defense Minister Rajnath Singh on 22nd June left for a 3-day visit to Russia to mark the 75th anniversary of the Soviet victory over Germany in Second World War. The Defense Minister's visit to Russia comes in the midst of an escalating border standoff between India and China, where he may have escalated or expedited the delivery of the S-400 missile defense system and Su-30 MKI jets, and also the MiG-29, the upgraded MiG-29 interceptors from Russia. Now, we have just finished the history of the India-China relationships. Now we will move to the question that why frequent face-offs are happening between the two nations. Now, number one reason can be the non-demarcation of the LAC, or line of actual control. Now, LAC has never been defined or demarcated properly, as a result of which India and China are having overlapping claims along the line of actual control, which leads to frequent clashes. Now, number two can be a non-implementation of protocols that both the countries' military were agreed in the past, and the protocols that agreed in 2005 and 2013 regarding the rules of engagement to prevent such incidents have not always been adhered to. So, by these protocols, both the sides were committed to developing their long term constructive and cooperative partnerships on the basis of 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, mutual respect, sensitivity of each other's concerns, aspirations, and equality. Now, what is behind the latest tensions? The northern bank of Pangong Lake, which is situated in Ladakh, has always been a point of contention between the two. Now, both the countries are having different perceptions in this area also, and the standoff in the Galwan Valley. Now, in the past, not many incidents in the past, as LAC was thought to be settled here, that is in Galwan Valley, was triggered by China by moving in the troops and equipments to stop the construction activity in the DSDBO road. We will know this DSDBO road in the next subsequent discussions. Now, the New Delhi says that the construction was well within the Indian territory. Now, the broader context for the unexpected tensions in the Sikkim area, that is the Nakula sector, appears to be changing dynamics along the LAC as India plays a catch up in improving the infrastructure there. That means since the India is more concentrated in upgrading the infrastructure in the region of Ladakh, that is in the DSDBO road, then some unexpected tensions happened in Sikkim also. And Sikkim is commonly thought to be the India's strongest sector, given the presence of the entire 33rd Corps of Indian Army and India's general numerical advantage over the Chinese forces in the east of Nepal. As you can see here in the northern side, that is in the north West Bengal and the Sikkim area, that is in the Gangtok and in the Kalimpong region, then in the Siliguri region. These are all the placements of different battalions of 33rd Corps, and this area is said to be heavily guarded or heavy Indian Army is basically having more number of units here. But China is enjoying a terrain advantage in this place, which is more favorable to mobilization in the Sikkim area. That means this area, that is the Doklam plateau in here, it is basically a valley or plateau kind of region. So it is easier for the China to move the troops in this location. Thus, they like to maintain a status quo in this region. And next is the India's border infrastructure in the western sector, that is in the Ladakh sector, is inferior to the China's infrastructure there, impeding the Indian reinforcements from reaching their destinations quickly. This is because this area of Ladakh is having very difficult terrain of the mountains and the river beds like the Shyok River. So this side of India, that is the Ladakh sector, is a very difficult terrain, and it is difficult for the Indian Army to reach there very quickly. The 14th Corps of Indian Army's Northern Command is garrisoned at around 3,500 meters in Leh and maintains a permanent camp up to the altitude of 4,200 meters in the Leh district. And this is a little bit away from the actual area where the clashes happened, that is in the Galwan area. And in the air domain, China may be at a disadvantage since the maximum takeoff weights or MTOW for the fighter and the attack aircrafts are inversely proportional to the takeoff altitude. That means at the higher airfields, it decreases the usable payload capacity and the fuel load of the jets, and it also increases the runway length. That means as the altitude is increasing, the takeoff performance of the fighter jets and attack aircrafts are decreasing, and their payload capacity is also decreasing, and also the runway length which is required would increase in these cases. But Indian Air Force is having some proven track record in this area of operating strategic airlifters such as the C-130J Super Hercules as seen here, and also the Antonov 32. These are strategic airlifters, and these are having proven track records from operating in the advanced landing ground or ALGs like the Daulat Beg Oldie or DBO, which is one of the world's highest airstrips. Now let's see about the DSDBO road, which is the recent point of contention between both the nations. Now DSDBO stands for Darbuk Shayok Daulat Beg Oldie DSDBO road, and it is also called in the military language Subsector North Road, and it is having 255 km of length connecting Ladakh's capital city of Leh. This is Leh via the villages of Darbuk and the Shayok. Here it is Darbuk and here it is Shayok, and this is the last Indian village in this region, and this road will connect with the Daulat Beg Oldie, which is situated in this area DBO post near the China border, and which is at an altitude of 14,000 feet or roughly around 4,300 meters of altitude. And between the Shayok and the Karakoram Pass lies the Daulat Beg Oldie and plateau at an altitude around 16,000 feet, and the location of the ALG used by the Air Force to drop its supplies. And DBO is the India's northernmost corner, which is in army parlance called the Subsector North. So this area will be the Subsector North, and the road's construction was started in the year of 2000, and it was expected to be completed in the year of 2012. That is at a round cost of 320 crore under the monitoring of the PMO or the Prime Minister's office by the BRO or the Borders Road Organization. However, the construction could not be completed as the road was aligned with the Shayok riverbed. So here you can see the Shayok river is there, and this road is lying very close to the Shayok riverbed, and so it's get easily damaged during the floods, because the Shayok river is locally called to be the river of death because of its high current in the monsoon times or in the flooding times. Next, and in the October 2019, a 430 meter bridge over the river Shayok, as it is seen here, the river Shayok is seen, was inaugurated, and it joins the Darbuk to the DBO, that is Daulat Beg Oldie in the eastern Ladakh. Along with it, the Siachen Glacier. Along with this bridge, the Siachen Glacier area of Ladakh was declared open for the tourist by opening this particular bridge, open for the tourists. the Siachen Glacier. And the DBO is located just only 9 kilometers from the actual LAC with China, and the road will help to manage the border and the areas adjoining the Aksai Chin, and it will also ensure faster deployment of the troops in the area. Before this construction of the bridge, the only way to reach the Daulat Beg Oldi was only through the air or ALG, or the advanced landing ground, through planes and the transport planes. And from this DSDBO road, our road branches off towards the Galwan Valley, which has prompted the recent standoff in the Galwan Valley recently. Now let me show you this. Yeah, in this picture you can see that this is the Galwan here, and from here there is a road branching off to the Galwan region like this, and here in that region the recent standoff took place in the Galwan Valley, and India has decided not to stop the road construction on its side of the LAC, despite the border confrontations and objections by the China, because China does not want India to utilize the full potential of this DSDBO road, because it will enable India to deploy the troops in this region very faster. Now what is the status quo in this region? Status quo to prevail. That means both the countries are likely to have the confrontation to be prevailing in this situation, and it is the military standpoint. Both India and China claim the regions of Aksai Chin and the Arunachal Pradesh. That is here, Aksai Chin area, and the region of Arunachal Pradesh in here, this side and this side, and they both claim the regions of this Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh, and military clashes are occurring at the country, as the countries have not come to any conclusion as of now about the demarcation of the boundary. Now India demands a two-line solution in the border, a particular line that China do not cross, and another line that India will not cross. And while China demanding the comprehensive code of conduct for the forces of both the countries, which India is reluctant to accept, because it proposes to limit the modernization of the Indian army infrastructure in these areas, and it will also enable China to preserve the military advantage of Tibet, and that is in this area of Tibet. The above mismatches are the main reasons for the countries being not able to come to a conclusion over the border, and a state of tension between both the countries always remain, and this is said to be the status quo. So it is, the experts are opining that the status quo will be prevailing in these areas, as it is very difficult through the over the years to coming into a conclusion. Now this is the end of the part 1 of this lecture. Now I will give a link in the description box for the part 2, next part, in which I will also discuss different sections of the India and China relations, like the economy, and I will come to a conclusion afterwards. So kindly watch the video, the second part. Thank you.